Shalom from a little coffee and a lot of Yahuwah. This is Jacob speaking. We are talking about proving the scriptures. We have looked at the eyewitness account, archaeology, scientific evidence and prophecies being fulfilled. And now the final stretch is to talk about Yahuwah's creation and how incredibly it has been put together. We don't generally think about it this way, so I'm going to just share with you some really interesting matters and facts about Abba's creation and how incredibly perfect it is, so that life such as us can exist. Because if any of these things would have fallen away that I'm going to be mentioning, it will just not be able to exist. So with a little coffee, let us move on. If we look at, you can use a mobile phone or a watch or something that took something that how can I put this? A talent that a person has to build something. Now, many people believe in evolution and the Big Bang, and then things evolved. And the point I'm trying to make is, if you take a cell phone or a mobile phone and you pick it up in the street or you see it lying there, you know for a fact that it was made. Somebody had to put plans together and design it, the look of it, the screen size, whatever it is, and it was put together by man. If you find a piece of or a watch, you don't think by pieces of metal and glass. It just evolved over time and it came together. It's totally ridiculous. If you look at a painting, that painting just didn't come to be. There was a painter. If you look at the buildings, the tower blocks, these modern beautiful buildings that you find these days, it just didn't come to be. There was an architect involved, there was a designer involved, there were builders involved, there were manufacturers involved to put this together. Let me tell you something. The human body is more complicated than anything man can create. And all the simple things that man created did not evolve and just come together over time. And neither did the human body or Abba's creation. So let's have a look here. What the universe had a beginning. Something or someone must have started it. The law of causality, which is a fundamental principle of science, which is the search of causes. The second law of thermodynamics, study of matter and energy, says the universe is running out of energy. This proves that if the earth existed eternally, it would have run out of usable energy by now. This law is also known as the law of entropy, which means nature tends to come to disorder. It deteriorates or decays. The evidence is all around you. In 1927, Edwin Hubble, that's where the Hubble telescope comes from, discovered that the universe is growing apart, which means it all came from a single point and came into being at a moment. In 1965, two of the Bell telephone scientists discovered the radiation afterglow, which supports the Big Bang theory. Big Bang meaning a sudden beginning. The light is no longer visible, but the heat is still detectable. This also confirms the universal is not eternal and had a beginning. Please don't think for one moment I support the Big Bang Theory. The thing that I do support is that there was a sudden beginning. Abba spoke it into being, and it was. For one moment it wasn't, the next moment it was. So yes, that is why it will support the Big Bang Theory, that there is a sudden beginning. But it had nothing to do with the bang. Only Abba's voice. Einstein's theory of general relativity confirms that there is a definite beginning to all time, all matter, all space. This is the evidence, in short, that confirms the universe had a cause. Natural forces are ruled out, since cause can't come into being after effect. Something outside nature must have been the cause. The law of causality says that everything that comes to be needs a cause. Yahuwah did not come to be. He is an eternal being, and he did not need a cause. So, the intelligent design requires a designer. Let's look at the anthropic principle. Eros cited 26 different characteristics that enables it to sustain life, that are finely tuned to allow life to exist on Earth. Let's look at some. The first one is atmosphere. Perfectly designed for life. Its size and gravity hold a layer of gases that protect us and allows us to breathe. The oxygen is 21%. If oxygen was 25%, fires would continually erupt. If it was 15%, we would have suffocated. Our planet, if it was smaller, it couldn't support an atmosphere, as on Mercury. And if it were bigger, it would contain free hydrogen, which is poison to us, like on Jupiter. Second one, the distance. The Earth is just the right distance from the Sun and other planets in our solar system. If we were any closer, we would burn up, and if we would be further away, we would freeze to death. The Earth's slightly elliptical orbit and its angle would give us a narrow range of temperatures, which is important for life. The speed of the rotation warms the Earth evenly, compared to the Moon, where there are extraordinary temperatures because it lacks sufficient atmosphere or water to retain or deflect the sun's energy. Let's look at the Moon. The Moon is important. The Earth has only one moon, and it is the right size and the right distance from us. The Moon's gravity impacts the movement of the ocean currents, keeping the water from becoming stagnant. Let's look at water. Very important. It is just the right world. The abundance of it in liquid state. Water has surface tension, thus can move upward against gravity to bring liquid nutrients to the tallest of plants. Everything in the world freezes from the bottom up, but water from the top down. Everything else contracts when it freezes, but water expands. This means that in winter, ponds, rivers and lakes can freeze at the surface, and it will allow marine mammals or animals to live below. In conclusion, from the very moment of the beginning of the existence of the universe, it had to be fine-tuned to an inconceivable precision for the existence of a life like ours. This points conclusively towards the existence of an intelligent designer. Let's look at the human body. The DNA. This is a highly complex informational code. Scientists tell us you can't have a code without a code maker. A single DNA molecule, the building block of all life, carries the same amount of information as one volume of an encyclopedia. Now, I'm aware of the fact that these days many people don't understand the content of one encyclopedia book because of the computers, and it's a lot easier to find information these days. But for the older folk, we understand what an encyclopedia contains in one volume. So, let's look at the designer. Okay, I've just mentioned, I was talking here about the Eiffel Tower. If you look at the building of it and design and architect, so I've mentioned all that. Okay, so let's look at the human eye. The human eye is much more complex and sophisticated than any tower block or building. Therefore, it would be reasonable to believe that the human eye is made by design and that a designer exists. Right, so let's go further. Moral law. The last one I would like to mention is moral law. The moral law deals with what is good versus what is evil. Every law has a lawgiver. Therefore, there is a moral lawgiver. Within every heart of man, woman and child, a law has been inscribed that drives our thoughts, actions and decisions. So, let's look at the concept of fairness. If you speak to a child, children knows very well right from wrong and fair from unfair. They will be very quick to tell you that if you give something to her little brother, that it's unfair that she didn't get. So a sense of fairness is something that is put within us as a child. It's called that you know when something is right and when something is wrong. Concept of values. Certain values are found in all human cultures. Murder, lying, stealing and cheating are all wrong, and mankind knows that. The concept of accountability. Animals and nature are not judged by their actions. Animals will kill for food. Floods and hurricanes do happen, and we accept that. People have the ability to make decisions on what is right and wrong, and understands the consequences of their actions. Concept of guilt. This is an indicator of ultimate right or wrong. We feel guilty when we think we violated a moral rule. It's that feeling of ought. Morality stems from the nature of Yahuwah. So what kind of Elohim does all this evidence point to? The cosmological evidence shows that he must be a supernatural power, for he is a power beyond nature, who brought the whole natural world into existence. He must be a super intelligent, for he designed a super complex universe and human life. He must be morally perfect, for he is the standard of all moral law. And I would like to summarize at this point the following. And I'm going to read from Romans 1 verse 18. For the wrath of Elohim is revealed from heaven against all wickedness and unrighteousness of men, who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Because that which is known of Elohim is manifest among them, for Elohim has manifested it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible qualities have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, both his everlasting power and mightiness, for them to be without excuse. So find that. Shalom from a little coffee and a lot of Yahuwah. Till next time.